Hey guys, all right, I wanted to do a short video because I wanted to clarify your application. It's module 2 application work. I'm reading through things now. Don't everybody panic. I gave everybody a 0 that wasn't on the right track because you really weren't on the right track. But I am letting you redo the assignment, but I want you to make sure that you listen to this video first and then go back and fix what you messed up, which I'm not going to edit everybody's. I'm not. Assume that if I gave you a 0, you need to redo it. Okay. It's going to take too long for me to go through and give feedback on everything, because yeah, these weren't very good. But I recognize that okay, this didn't work, so let's figure out how we can help you understand what's going on. So again, I apologize if I'm looking to the side over here. I've got my other computer over here that I'm looking at. So here's what we're doing. I'm gonna talk to you about module 2 application work. I'm going to talk to you about Freud, Harlow, Bowlby, and Mary Ainsworth and kind of how they go together. And then I want you to go and do the assignment again. If you got a score that you're happy with, then you don't have to redo it. But if I give you a score and I reassign it, so on my end, I can give you a score and then I can say reassign and it'll come back to you to do again. So if I do that, like if I gave you a 10 out of 40 and I hit reassign, I will give you a couple of notes about what you might have done wrong. If I give you a 0 and reassign, you got to do the whole thing over. If I give you a 25 or 30 out of 40 and I reassign, but you're cool with that, that's fine. You don't have to redo it. So just kind of look at my notes. I'm not going to go through and give everybody long feedback, but I will comment, if I can, it just in short as to what you did. So there were videos in this assignment that took you through Freud, Harlow, Bowlby, and then Mary Ainsworth. So let's make sense of this. First of all, Freud. Freud is Freud. I mean, he's Freud. Freud is the psychosexual theorist. So everything that Freud does and talks about is not only related back to your mother, but it has some sexual undertone. Okay, and that's why a lot of psychology people are kind of disregarding Freud now, especially in the current times. But we still want to talk about Freud. Freud is classic. So we want to talk about Freud, but, in general, people are kind of poo-pooing, especially his stages of development. But here's what he says. He says that development happens in 5 stages: the oral stage, the anal stage, the phallic stage, the latency stage, and the genital stage. What he says is, so let me look here. So you guys are doing, we're in, I think, give me a minute here. I think this was from infancy and early childhood. Oh, shoot. Yeah. Okay. So we're looking at infancy and early childhood. So for Freud, we're looking at the oral stage and the anal stage. That's where we stop. Freud talks about the oral stage being from birth to 1-ish. And what he says is, that your healthy outcome is based on, did you get your oral needs met as a child? His biggest thing about oral needs is feeding. So did you get your oral needs met? If you were hungry, did somebody feed you? Freud will also go as far as saying, if your mother bottle fed you, that's bad. And if your dad fed you, that's bad. But again, you have to remember the times for Erikson, for Freud, he's the early 1900s. So men didn't raise the kids. But what Freud then says is everything is based around feeding. And did you get your oral needs met when, you were a baby? And if you did not, then you grow up later in life to be a thumb sucker or a smoker or an overeater, anything where you're trying to orally stimulate. I know, kind of deep, right? The anal stage is about from 1 to 3-ish. He says this is all about kids' ability or inability, but the ability to learn to control their bladder and bowels. So it's very much about trying to control that environment. Now, for the love of all that is right in the world, I have no idea why I didn't have you relate Erikson to this. So I'm going to throw that in here in a minute. I don't really know why. I should have. Don't really know why I didn't. So I apologize for that. But so Freud's oral stage, all about getting your oral needs met. The anal stage is all about control. And what control do kids have, and do they want it? In this stage, Freud says it's the anal stage. It's being able to control bladder and bowel movements. So if you think about it, the 1 to 3 year old is where kids are learning to potty train. Okay. All right. So that's Freud. Now, you didn't have to include Erikson in this, and I honestly have no idea why I didn't. So I'm going to kind of relate that a little bit right now. Erikson's first 2 stages are trust versus mistrust and autonomy versus shame and doubt. Erikson says that the 0 to 1 is learning to trust the world or to mistrust the world. Erikson is all about one of 2 ways that you have an outcome. So in the first stage, do you learn to trust the world, or do you learn that the world is not a place you can trust, that you learn to mistrust the world? Erikson expanded on Freud and said that there's more to life than just your oral needs. So Erikson looks at getting all of your needs met. Did someone come and change your diaper when your diaper is all poopy and pee? Did somebody hold you when you were crying? Did somebody feed you? Did you get all of those needs met? Did you cry and somebody responded? Did you make a noise and somebody interact with you? That's Erikson. Erikson's second stage is autonomy versus shame and doubt. So he looked at Freud and said, it's more than just potty training. And he expanded on that and said, healthy, you're either going to have the outcome of learning autonomy or learning shame and doubt. Autonomy is, when you're talking about Erikson, you can consider autonomy versus shame and doubt as the I can do it myself stage. If you've ever seen a 1-year-old or 2-year-old, they want to tie their shoes. They want to zip up their coat. They want to do all these things that they're not able to do yet, but they want to do them. That's an autonomous child. How we help kids develop autonomy from age 1 to 3 is we give them choices. We don't ask. If you've ever asked a 2-year-old what they want for dinner, you probably never did it again. Because they're going to tell you they want ice cream, or they want, whatever. They want Cheerios. They want whatever. And that's not probably what you were thinking. But once you do that, you can't go back. You can't say, oh, no. Would you rather do this or this? They're going to say, no, I told you what I wanted. And, that's how it is. It always makes me laugh when adults think that they can win a power kick with a 3-year-old. You will not. 2 and 3-year-olds are very strong-willed people. And that's because they are learning autonomy. They're learning independence. So where Freud says it's all about bladder and bowel control, Erikson expands on that and says, nah, they want to learn control of their environment, but they're 2 and 3. So, they want to learn more than just bladder and bowel control. So the way that we help kids be autonomous in this age is we give them choices. We don't say, what do you want for dinner? You say, do you want peas or carrots for dinner? Do you want to wear this shirt or that shirt? You give them choices, and you give them choices around what you're okay with. If you want to give them a choice between pizza and hot dogs, okay. But giving kids choices at this age helps them to feel autonomous. And then going into the next stage, which is initiative, then they're off to school and they'll feel the initiative to try new things. Okay. Now I realized Erikson was not part of this assignment, and I don't know what I was thinking, why I didn't include that. You don't have to include it if you're redoing it. Okay. But to see the relationship between Freud, who said it was the oral stage and then it was the anal stage, and Erikson, who expanded on Freud and said, no, it's more than just the oral stuff. It's also, emotional needs and other things. And kids learn to trust or mistrust. And it's more than just the anal stage. It's autonomy versus shame and doubt. How do they learn independence? Okay. So your next video in there is about Harlow. And Harlow, that's old video. It's actually his video of him. And so Harlow had the monkeys, and Harlow had the monkeys that were raised on either a wire mother or a cloth mother. That isn't even really as much of the issue for this assignment, but what you look at in that video is that when that baby monkey was scared or afraid, whether it was in the room or it was something that scared them, that baby monkey ran to that cloth mother. The baby monkey does not run to the mother that fed them, the wire mother. The baby runs to the cloth mother. Okay, so the video kind of talks about, well, is it comfort? But it's more than that. The section of that video where it shows that that loud toy kind of scared the monkey, but when the monkey was on that cloth mother, you could tell that it kind of relaxed and actually kind of got, pretty independent, was yelling back at the toy. That was feeling secure with that mother, with that cloth mother. This is the key here. Harlow really was the first theorist. I mean, there were others that tried, but he was one of the major theorists that discredited Freud. Freud is saying it's all about getting your oral needs met. That's how you have a healthy outcome. Not so much. Harlow showed that when scared or when unsure, that baby monkey ran to that cloth mother. They got comfort from that. They did not get comfort from the mother that fed them. So it really kind of started this train of, is Freud really right? No, Freud's not. So that's how those two are kind of related. Now, when you look at Bowlby and attachment, we still build on those monkeys. Okay, we can still build a little bit on Freud, but Bowlby has, 4 stages of attachment: pre-attachment, attachment in the making, clear-cut attachment, and then reciprocal relationship. Now, some of you here put secure and insecure, avoidant, and resistant in Bowlby. That's not where that goes. Your types of attached children go in with Ainsworth. So you've got Bowlby and Ainsworth. Bowlby is the theorist that talked about attachment, talked about the stages of how babies build attachments or build those bonds with each other. Mary Ainsworth tested Bowlby's ideas by doing the strange situation. Okay, so the types of attached children that come out of the strange situation, yeah, you guys were right. Secure or insecure, resistant, avoidant, etc., disorganized. But those are Mary Ainsworth ideas. Okay, so keep that straight. But if you look at them, and especially when you look at the securely attached child, and that's in that last video, that securely attached child, you can tell was raised by a mother that met all of that child's needs. That child developed trust, because you can see that, that mom at the end tells the child, oh, it's okay for other people to watch you. But you can tell that child also developed trust about the world, because immediately when mom came back, the child reached out for that mom. Where the other kids, maybe not. The others were different kinds of insecurely attached children, and they were not getting comfort from mom. They were hitting mom, they were avoiding mom, whatever it was. Okay, so you could argue from a Freud perspective that they didn't get their oral needs met. You could argue from an Erikson, even though I know Erikson's not in your assignment, but you could argue that those kids probably developed mistrust. Maybe they didn't get their needs met as they were young. And again, we know Harlow says it's so much more than just feeding. So that securely attached mom or child probably offered more comfort. Okay, so when we relate this, that was Ainsworth, sorry. But when we're back on Bowlby, Bowlby says pre-attachment is that beginning of life where there are built-in signals, so reflexes and other things, that social smile. One big reflex for new parents is when, and I'm sorry if I burst your parent bubble if you're a parent, but if you've had a child or you've ever seen somebody with a newborn and the parent puts their finger in baby's hand and baby grasps it, And the parents are like, oh my gosh, my child's holding my hand. No, they're not. That was not intentional. It was a reflex. It's okay. Sorry if I made you feel bad. I didn't mean to, but it's not. It's a reflex. You know, holding, grasping is a reflex. Sucking is a reflex. And those reflexes, according to Bowlby, are there to encourage exactly what it did, that interaction between parent and child. So when you get a newborn that the parent puts their finger in the baby's hand and the baby grasps it, parents are all excited. Parents like that. Parents think their baby intentionally grabbed their hand. It doesn't matter that it's a reflex. From Bowlby's perspective, that's what starts that back and forth relationship and attachment. Again, Freud's going to say that comes from getting your oral needs met. Yeah, okay. But, and that's why I don't know why I didn't include Erikson. Erikson would say that that finger in that hand, yes, Bowlby is a reflex, but it helps encourage that the child learn to trust the world. And then that, so it's pre-attachment, attachment in the making, where the child starts to recognize the parent, that social smile comes up. So, you know, again, the first time a child smiles, it's probably not a social smile. It's check the diaper. It's probably gas. But it encourages parents to spend the next 4 days trying to get their kid to smile again. You know, again, Freud, he would say it's just oral needs. Erikson would say, no, these are things that help the child learn to trust the world. So it's pre-attachment, attachment in the making, clear-cut attachment when children start to cry, when their parent leaves, when a stranger picks them up, maybe they're not comforted by a stranger. You know, kind of again relating that to Mary Ainsworth. And then reciprocal relationship, where the child understands the parents' coming and goings. So when we're looking at this again, Harlow is a continuous theorist that, yes, he raised monkeys, but he's really talking about kind of overall attachment. But Freud is looking, oral stage is looking at that birth to 1, anal stage 1 to 3. Harlow's really kind of focusing on infancy. Bowlby's theory, really pre-attachment, attachment in the making, pre-attachments, you know, the first month or two, attachment in the making, 6 months, you know, clear-cut attachment, 6 to 18 months, and then reciprocal relationship, 18 months, 2 years, and up. So all of Bowlby is done, so to speak. The stages have been met, or they enter them by the time that we're in Freud's anal stage, where we would be in Erikson's autonomy stage. Okay. And then the kids used in Mary Ainsworth's scenario are at that upper end. So they're in that 18 months to 2 years and up range. Okay. So how does this all relate together? Hopefully that made sense. Oral stage, we get our needs met orally. Go ahead and throw Erikson in there if you want to try it. Erikson says, no, it's more than that we learn to trust the world. Harlow discredited Freud by showing that babies were not getting comfort from moms who just fed them. You know, Bowlby talks about those reflexes and other things that start that building that relationship. And then throughout that, then you've got Ainsworth looking at the types of attached child. And had I done my job in giving you Erikson to talk about, you would have been able to see that those 18-month to 2-year-old kids in Ainsworth, how it kind of relates back in the strange situation, how it relates back that those insecurely attached children probably did not get their needs met, probably learned to mistrust the world. Okay. Now I know I've just talked you in a circle. I know. That's how I want you to think about it. What I don't want you to do on this reassignment, I don't want you to just regurgitate what I just said. It'll never make sense anyway, but don't just regurgitate what I just said. But think it through about how they're related. Now, let me make you crazy, and I don't mean to, but I am. So think about Bowlby and attachment, where he talks about reflexes. The same thing happens with Erikson. Again, I apologize. But, you know, Erikson will say that those relationships happen because of reflexes, that they are grasping your hand, that babies do suck. Those are reflexes. Piaget sensory motor stage in the cognitive development sensory motor stage is all about their reflexes. It's their senses and their motor skills. And in the beginning, it's all about reflexes. So remember, as we go through the rest of the semester, all these theorists are looking at the same thing. They're looking at children or adolescents or whatever. They're all looking at the same age, but they're looking at them from slightly different perspectives, but they should all relate together. Okay. Now that I've just given you a giant headache, if you need clarification, hop on office hours this week, or if you need an extra time outside of office hours, we can try to figure that out too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through now and regrade those. I'm going to regrade those assignments. I'm going to make them due with the next module. So I'm going to make all that due March 25th. So that'll give you time to kind of fix it while still doing the other things. You don't have an application assignment in the third module. So you just have 9, 10, 11, 12 and exam 3. So I'm going to make this reassignment of the module 2 application work. I'm going to reassign it and make it due on the 25th of March. Okay. So if there's questions, let me know. I'm sorry if I made it worse. I wasn't trying to make it worse. But yeah, reach out if you have questions. Okay. All right. That's all.